So what I do is I walk into a room with people and I help them find where they're hung up in their body and mind, and then help them release that. I do that through a combination of informed touch and compassionate inquiry. So there are very few modalities that couple these two things. It's always either wrenching through the body and kind of seeing what happens, or talking emotionally, ignoring the body. Wilhelm Reich was right on in this stuff when he was breaking through the armor of the body. Of course, he got completely shut down. His work was so effective. So the reason I do it that way is because that's what I learned from my mentor. And I thought anything that was body-based was kind of silly and too earthy. I like mental practices, Zen Buddhism and the like. Though the body is used in those as well, it's used in different ways. Later, I broke my neck and I realized, I need to become one with this body while I'm in this world. There is no experience that doesn't touch the body. Life is what happens where your body meets the present moment. So we need to come in alignment and heal our bodies so that we can feel and live and flow. Otherwise, there is no flow. There is no feeling. Now, I've called my first book Flow because after I experienced an awakening on a beach, I realized that all these dualities, all these things collapsed. And that was like a generous gift from some divine place. And I worked for it too. I meditated for hours a day. I fasted. I did all these things. And that just fell upon me at the most seemingly random time, though looking back, it wasn't random. Everything makes sense in the context of tuning into your own inner intuition. And I help people walk back through these stories because that is essential. You need to rewrite your past so that you can rewrite your future. Your past and your future are equally fictive, though we don't think they are. We think the past is this thing that happened to us, and the future is as of yet unwritten. Like that song, like most ridiculous songs are designed to program us, to keep us stuck. It's okay, because you have such a powerful guiding force with you that you cannot be misled. You can be misled for a time, but there's that quote, 3 things cannot long remain hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. And that's misattributed to the Buddha, and that's okay. We follow all the great bodhisattvas from history up to and beyond Christ and any being that brings light into the world. And so this practice, this thing that I do, I call it the Philomela protocol. Because when I broke my neck, I was so close to death, and then I heard this bird song and I realized like I was changed. And Rudolf Steiner writes about listening to the sound of another life form, distinguishing it from your own self, and that being a way to kind of come into conscious awareness of your own soul, of those own pieces of yourself. And that's, so Philomela is a nightingale in Latin, and that term stuck with me, and this little image of which I use as my logo, came to me in a flash. I'm a creative, a mentor, and an entrepreneur, and a few other things. So these ideas build themselves in memory, build themselves in various layers visually, and from my memories and from intuition and such. And after I trained for 3 years with this mentor, I went there to heal my own neck, to heal my own body, to heal my own diet, to heal my own confusion, to heal my own idiocy. Gurdjieff would always give a toast to the idiots, Georges Ivanovich Gurdjieff. And it was like a way to rub what he called stepping on your corns, like to touch the painful part of yourself to see how you reacted. Because as we do the work, you'll become less and less reactive. And I've seen this and I've experienced this firsthand. Like people are speaking to me about their deepest lifelong traumas, and I have to learn to listen without being stirred up. Oh, that's terrible, that thing that happened. I'm going to cry because that's so sad, etc. There is a time and place for that. And there's a way to hear stories and realize the beauty and the interweaving of the human condition, and that everything's divinely orchestrated. I believe that things happen for a reason. I've read various sources that say that they do, various sources that say that they don't. Are some closer to the truth? I resonate more with some than others. Maybe they're different origins, and I'm from one of those origins that believes. And radically, I believe that we are designed to be broken and to heal. So that did not become a radical belief until a couple of years ago, when a quasi-pandemic nearly took over all of humanity. And then suddenly people were saying, everything you've ever said is now a dangerous, revolutionary, radical idea. That's great. I didn't realize that it was, but it doesn't matter. a lot of people that I knew had these same beliefs, and they all changed their mind because they were repeatedly inundated with like another level of whatever you call it, propaganda. Now, this has nothing to do with whether a dis-ease is fictitious. It's only a more holistic way of looking at it. So a dis-ease in your body is a way you're using your mind. It's a way you're using different constructs. It's a way you put together ideas. It's a way you're walking on the substrate of your past. It's the way you're building a bridge with your consciousness to your future. People don't learn how to use language. They don't learn how to use their body. They stand incorrectly. Their heads collapse. Now, I had to learn all this when I broke my neck. And I did a Vipassana later, and it anchored all of this in. In Vipassana, the original teaching of the Buddha, preserved on Sri Lanka, they say, it's a 10-day silent retreat where you just scan your body. And I just had all kinds of like intuitive knowing, visualizations, and clearing of old sankhara or karma. In that model, any pain that manifests as you're sitting there is like some old unresolved sankhara. It's some old place where you caused pain. So you have to now feel what you caused. This is the way the mirror of life works. And whenever you have a thought that's negative, it flutters out into the world somewhere and causes pain. Eventually it comes back to you and causes pain. So I think it's empowering to realize that there's no way out of that. And it's also inspiring because we start to look at our thoughts and be like, oh, even thoughts matter. Earlier, someone was blessing their food. Thank you for this food. Amen. Just a basic blessing. And someone on the other side of the kitchen was, I'm going to get these damn eggs boiled. Someone was damning the food. Now, which food is healthier, do you think? Which food is more life-giving? So we know this intuitively. However, we just lose touch with it, and we're inundated with this idea that everything is material and nothing is spiritual, and the mental doesn't matter and the physical does. That's why you'll take an antidepressant instead of changing your mindset. Though if you read the New Mood Therapy, one is highly more effective. Like understanding your cognitive distortions is much more effective than most of these therapeutics, and it doesn't have any side effects. So why are we not meant to know that? I know a lot of it's breaking through. There's social media where things are breaking through the seam. That control structure is also the liberation matrix, however you want to say it. The point is, when I walk into a room and I see and I touch bodies and I move bodies and I straighten up postures, and a lot of people cry and weep because one time I remembered straightening a woman's legs, or her legs were locked straight and she was like in this rigid position. She'd gone to school in India. And as I softened her legs, all these tears flowed out. As I softened her knees, like, bend your knees, relax, it's okay, you're safe. All these tears poured out, and she remembered in her Catholic school, someone whipped the back of her legs whenever she slouched or stood a certain way. So her legs were like locked rigid in this fear of being struck by something. And most people live in this fear of being struck by something. An abusive mother, like a baseball that hit you in the solar plexus, a car that smashed into your car, whatever it is. We're still bracing for the impact of the thing that's long gone. So a lot of this is realizing that changed your body, that changed your way of being, that changed your life. So it didn't change it forever, and you've tried things that didn't work, and that's understandable. Everyone tries things that didn't work. That's part of like stumbling upon the thing that does work. But the point is, when you collapse somewhere, we collapse so gradually that we don't really realize we collapse. We're just like, I feel like I missed this old part of my innocence. It's like how the idea shows up. So you have to uncollapse. And not just physically, because that doesn't do anything. You're like, why is this thing so stubborn? It keeps collapsing, right? I'm going to get like 3 men in there who are 300-pound brutes to just keep pawing on my ribs. And that doesn't necessarily do anything. Because one shift in the mind loosens that forever. That's what I saw in Vipassana. You sit with the pain, you keep scanning it. I have stuff in my solar plexus, or I have carried it in the past. It's no longer part of my identity. It's part of my learning process. You see how I'm languaging everything so that it loosens up my relationship to it? People are like, I have this condition. I will always have this condition. They're not saying they'll always have it, or I'm trying to heal this thing. They'll be trying forever because they're so attached to that being part of their identity. So releasing this and just letting it complete itself. When you're smashed in a car, it's like things were so sudden that consciousness shut down. The body had to endure it. Things get tucked away for future processing. That's the key. They're tucked away for future processing. So you have to process them, and then they go away. How do you process them? Well, you feel the original pain. You return the original impulses. You have a conversation about what was there, and every other collective piece of the equation. I had a client who cracked her sternum on a steering wheel because she crashed a car when she was leaving a party because she found out someone was being unfaithful. And that's a literal broken heart. Like, oh, my heart hurts so bad. Bam, the steering wheel. So everything is like that. People are often reaching back for something like in a closet or in the back of the car, and they'll like pull their shoulder out to suck it and they're like reaching back into their past, like they've just left a lover. They're trying to like reclaim something. So just realizing how layered and beautiful and powerful this tapestry is part of the healing process. That's the beauty of it. So like there is much consciousness in your little toe as in your head or your face or your mouth or your chest. They're all different layers and levels, and they all interact in different ways. But we tend to forget like most of our body most of the time. When I found my feet, and I've lost them again and found them again and lost them again. And when I was 30, I cried tears of joy. All someone did was touch my feet while they asked me questions. Was during my training. It was someone who was not even skilled. And I was just like, oh, and I felt complete for the first time in my life. This was after working on healing the broken neck. That was profound to me because what? The feet have to do with consciousness? Reconnecting to the feet makes you whole and complete? You've been trying to do all these mantras. I feel whole and complete. I feel whole and complete. Well, your feet are totally cut off. You abuse them. You look at them and my feet are disgusting. Or whatever the thing is, however you judge yourself. That's how you energetically amputate pieces of your own body, by the way. And the energy doesn't flow there anymore. It starts to be like, oh, the feet aren't part of me. I'm going to start to decline them. Or the shoulder. Sometimes someone could throw a ball. They didn't approve of that play in baseball, so the shoulder like locks up over time. That throw ruined my life. I don't like this shoulder anymore. And this, I don't know if it sounds esoteric, but you're guaranteed to be carrying some of those stories exactly like that. Like you cut off parts of yourself and now you need to reclaim them, and that's your purpose for healing. And maybe you use medicines that cut you off even further. Maybe some alleviated symptoms and then made things worse. None of this. Or maybe you believe things that were nuts and now you're coming back to alignment. None of this matters at all. The point is that you come into the moment, you come back into your alignment, you come back into your center, you align your posture, you find all your body parts, and you're alive again. It's beautiful. This is why I call what I do the Rapture Protocol. I have this Philomela Protocol. I have this Bloom model. And they're all ways of like distilling these elevations of consciousness into systems. I love this beautiful aspect of systems. And I think we're going down a rabbit hole now with all these screens. Everyone's half addicted. People are like half alive because they're walking around and when will I get on another screen? I don't know why I'm here. I need to get back and watch this thing. And that's okay for a while, but it's like you can't be fully alive when you're like that. So you have to think about what are you going to do to break out of that cell, right? The cell of the cell phone or the matrix of the screens or the search for approval or whatever. That doesn't create the issues, it's just compounding them. Because if you can't focus long enough to come back into center, to tune into your past, to like consciousness and focus, and the Vipassana is 10 days of silence where you don't read anything, you don't look at anyone, you're just like inward. And that inward changes your life. And shockingly, like if you're not vaccinated for COVID, you couldn't go there. So like, whatever your beliefs on that, these control structures are encroaching on everything in the spiritual world, in the physical world. So I think that's beautiful because it shows that humans are just expanding and growing in power, and these systems are collapsing. What beautiful things will we create once these systems that are outdated collapse? And that's what I'm here to help you do. Like, what would you do in your life if you weren't ruled by your wounds? Isn't that a beautiful thought? Like, what would you do in your life if you knew you cannot fail? Was one of the concepts that is powerful. And the other one is like, we're just so limited by these ideas of how we're limited. So it's like, are you free of those? The amazing thing is when we open up any of these parts of your body, people always sit up and cry because some of the work is done lying down. And then the tears of grief become tears of joy. The only dramatic drawback of this work is that it is most powerfully done one-on-one with a human that is me. And if there's maybe others, I don't know them right now. And the tears of joy are so profound because people sit up and they're a different person. Someone wrote me the other day, when you left my house last time, I felt reborn. And this was talking about a session 7 years ago. So reborn is what we're going for. That's why I based it on my near-death experience. Wake up again and be reborn. That's like, I don't know. It's hard to say if it's literal or physical. It's just like Gurdjieff taught that we were born, that the original Christian teachings were that we were born without a soul, and through these practices we cultivate a soul. And that, like, I can't say one way or another, but I like the concept of you have sovereignty, and some people do seem more soulless than others. I try not to judge, because judgment is a big debilitator of consciousness, and lack of judgment is Christ consciousness, or whatever you want to call it. So I keep moving toward being more accepting of people, even trying to find veneration for the archetypal qualities of the people that are attempting to control us. And just everything washes off your back, and you're like, this is beautiful and powerful. I'm grateful I'm here. This is difficult and beautiful and powerful. I'm grateful I'm here. You can't leap to that. You need to clear what's in the way of that. However, I can virtually guarantee you'll reach that. So keep moving. Again, I'm Stephen Budden. I'm glad you're here. Follow me. There will be more like this. I hope to see you soon. I hope to hear about your journey. Thank you so much.